My name is Ethan Carter, and if you had asked me a year ago whether I believed my marriage could fall apart, I would have laughed and said, not us. Never. Funny how life loves proving you wrong. I met my wife, Lena, 9 years ago at a charity event in Chicago. She was the kind of woman who walked into a room and made you forget what you were saying mid-sentence. Beautiful, sharp-witted, ambitious. And I was. Well, an engineer who had just started his own design firm. I wasn't rich. I wasn't remarkable. But she chose me. At least, that's what I believed. For the first few years, we were perfect, or the closest thing to it. We laughed a lot, traveled, dreamed together. I thought we would grow old watching sunsets from our porch swing. But here's the thing about betrayal. It never arrives loudly. It slips in quietly, like a thief. The first crack in our marriage appeared 6 months ago. Lena started staying late at work, too late. She became distant, curt, guarded, as if I had suddenly become a stranger crashing in her living room. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe she's stressed. I told my best friend Marcus one night. Maybe I'm not supporting her enough. He raised an eyebrow. Bro, or maybe something's off. But I didn't want to believe that. I loved Lena. I trusted her. Maybe too much. The night everything changed felt ordinary at first. She'd already gone to bed by the time I got home from a late client meeting. I showered, walked into our bedroom, kissed her forehead, and slipped under the covers beside her. She shifted slightly, turning her back to me. I didn't know then that she was already planning her exit. The discovery. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning, Lena left in a rush. She forgot her laptop on the kitchen counter. She never forgets anything. Lena is meticulous, organized, almost obsessively so. I should have left it alone. I should have texted her and dropped it off later. But she had been cold for months, and my gut whispered something I didn't want to hear. I told myself I was only checking her calendar to see if she had any upcoming events I needed to plan around. That was the lie I used to justify opening it. The truth hit me like a punch to the ribs. Her email was open on the screen, an unfinished draft. Subject line: divorce strategy, final steps. I froze. My heartbeat hammered in my ears. My palms went cold. I tried to convince myself I was misunderstanding something. Anything. But as I scrolled, reality slapped me in the face over and over again. She had outlines, plans, timelines, even financial notes. And worst of all, a line that felt like someone had stabbed me straight through the chest. Once everything is transferred under my name, I'll file. You won't see it coming. My throat tightened. I felt like the air had been ripped out of the room. Transferred. Transferred what? The next paragraph answered that. She was planning to take full control of the new property investment I had been developing, something she barely had involvement in, something I had poured my savings and effort into. She was also talking to a divorce attorney, secretly, strategizing, positioning herself, laying out ways to make me look financially irresponsible so she could walk away with the majority of our assets. I didn't know how long I stood there, staring at the screen, unable to blink. I felt sick. I felt betrayed. But beneath the heartbreak, another emotion simmered: determination. If she wanted a secret war, she had just chosen the wrong opponent. The first confrontation. That evening, Lena came home like nothing was wrong. Hair perfectly straightened, heels clicking, phone glued to her hand. Hey, she said without looking at me. Did you eat? I'm starving. I watched her. Every move, every expression, every lie. I found your laptop this morning, I said. She froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. Her jaw clenched, barely noticeable to someone who hadn't spent 9 years memorizing her face. Oh, she said casually, thanks. I completely forgot I left it. She reached for it like it was a ticking bomb she needed to defuse. Did you open it? She asked too quickly. My lips curled into a slow, controlled smile. No, I lied. Why? Something important? Her shoulders loosened. No, nothing. Just work stuff. Work stuff. Right. She walked away to the bedroom, and I followed her with my eyes. I knew now that I wasn't dealing with the woman I married. This woman was planning a betrayal carefully enough to make it look clean, mutual, peaceful. She didn't know yet that I was already steps ahead. The shift in me. Over the next few days, I acted normal. Too normal. I kissed her good morning, made her breakfast, asked about her day, and she acted like she still loved me. But I noticed everything. The extra makeup before leaving the house. The constant texting with someone she couldn't remember the name of. The sudden interest in my business meetings. My accounts. My contracts. She wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to strip me bare before she walked out. But what she didn't realize was that she had made one critical mistake. She underestimated me. The night that changed everything. 3 weeks after discovering her email, I pretended to fall asleep early. I lay still, eyes closed, breathing steady. Around midnight, Lena slowly slipped out of bed. I heard her tiptoe into the hallway, then downstairs. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. She was in the living room, talking quietly on the phone. I stopped by the staircase, hidden in the shadows. Her voice was low, urgent. "Yes, I've almost got everything set," she whispered. "Just a few more documents and then I can file. I want to be prepared so he doesn't drag the process out." Silence. Then she said something that made my heart sink. "No, he has no idea. Ethan is clueless." Clueless. That word lit a fire inside me. She thought she was winning. She thought she had outsmarted me. She thought I would be blindsided. I stepped back upstairs quietly, my mind racing. That night, I didn't sleep, and by morning, I had a plan she would never see coming, a plan that would change everything. Because if she wanted to play this game, I was about to play it better. I didn't know then that the next thing I was about to uncover would shatter every remaining piece of my heart and make my revenge absolutely unstoppable. The morning after I overheard Lena on the phone, something in me shifted permanently. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Not without hearing her whispering to some stranger about how she planned to gut me financially and walk away like a queen. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. If I confronted her too soon, she'd just adjust her plan. If I confronted her too late, I'd lose everything. So I needed to be precise. That day, while she was in the shower, I opened the bedroom closet and dug out the small metal lockbox I hadn't touched in years. Inside were 2 old flash drives, the ones I used back when I first started my engineering firm. They contained detailed records, accounts, designs, and communications. Lena didn't know they existed, which meant she couldn't use them against me. I tossed them into my work bag, locked up the house, and left before she even came downstairs. As I drove to the office, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I replayed every moment of the last few months, the late nights, the excuses, the phone calls, the secrecy. How long had she been planning this? What changed? Was it another man? Or was it just greed? I didn't know the answer yet, but I was about to. The private investigator. When I got to the office, I sat down at my desk and stared at my phone. I'd never imagined I'd one day need something like this. But betrayal forces you into roles you never wanted to play. I dialed a number Marcus had given me once, jokingly, over drinks, when we were talking about how marriages fall apart in the modern world. At the time, I laughed. Now, I wasn't laughing. Harrison Investigations. This is Blake. The voice was calm, professional. "Blake," I said. "My name is Ethan Carter. I need help." There was a pause, then the sound of a chair creaking. "What kind of help?" "Discreet surveillance," I said. "On my wife." Another pause. "Are you sure?" I closed my eyes. "Unfortunately, yes." 2 hours later, Blake was sitting across from me in my office, mid-40s, salt and pepper beard, sharp eyes that looked like they'd seen too many broken secrets. I handed him everything I had. Screenshots of the email draft, the date of the phone call, the suspicious behaviors. He leaned back in his chair. "You think she's cheating?" "I think she's planning a divorce behind my back," I said. "And she's hiding something big." Blake scribbled notes. "I'll find out," he said simply. "Give me a week. A week. 7 days. 168 hours. I wasn't sure if I could survive that long with Lena pretending everything was fine. The dinner invitation. On the 3rd day of waiting, something unexpected happened. Lena walked into the living room holding 2 reservation cards. "I made us dinner plans for Saturday," she said brightly. Brightly. As if she wasn't plotting to destroy my life. "Oh?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "What's the occasion?" She shrugged, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture she always used when she was lying. "Just thought we could spend some time together. We've both been busy." My stomach twisted. Was she softening me up, testing the waters, or covering her tracks? "Sure," I said with a smile I didn't feel. "Sounds good." She leaned over and kissed my cheek, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt absolutely nothing. Marcus notices. The next day at lunch, Marcus studied me for a solid minute before putting his burger down. "All right," he said. "Speak." I blinked. "About what?" "Man, you look like someone drop-kicked your soul." I exhaled slowly. Marcus had always been my sounding board, the guy who called me out when I was being stupid, and the one who cheered the loudest when I succeeded. If there was anyone I could trust, it was him. I told him everything. By the time I finished, he was gripping the edge of the table so tightly the wood creaked. Ethan, she's not just leaving you. She's setting you up. I know. He shook his head. No, you think you know. But this is planned, strategic, and cold as hell. I stared at my hands. I keep wondering what I did wrong. Wrong? He said, raising his voice. You've loved that woman like she hung the moon. If she's doing this, it's on her, not you. I didn't respond. Marcus leaned in, lowering his voice. Listen, when Blake gets back to you, whatever he says, whatever he finds, don't act emotionally. Don't confront her. Be smarter than her. I swallowed hard. Smarter, I repeated. Right. The first report. On the 5th day, Blake texted me. We need to meet. Tonight. Urgent. My heart dropped. I drove to a quiet parking lot behind an old hardware store, his choice. He pulled up beside me, rolled down the window, and handed me a sealed envelope. I'm only giving you the first half, he said. I'm still working on the rest. I opened it. Inside were photographs. Lena, in a cafe, sitting with a man, not touching, not flirting, just talking. But their faces were too close, their expressions too intense, too familiar. My voice cracked. Is he? We're not sure yet, Blake said carefully. So far, no physical evidence. But they've met 3 times this week, all late afternoons. Private locations. I stared at one picture, Lena looking at the man with an expression I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Hope, warmth, something almost tender. Who is he? I whispered. We're still identifying him. But Ethan. Blake hesitated. There's something else. I looked up, tense. She's not just meeting him, he said. She's giving him documents. My blood went cold. What kind of documents? We're working on getting clearer photos. But they look financial. Financial. My assets. My business. My investments. Everything I had worked for. Something sharp twisted inside my chest. Rage. Fear? Both. Blake put a hand on my shoulder. We'll find out everything. Just give me 2 more days. 2 more days. 2 more days of living under the same roof with a woman secretly handing my life over to another man. The explosion. That night. I walked into the house calm, maybe too calm. Lena was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Hey, she said, without looking up. You're home late. I studied her for a long moment. The woman I loved. The woman I trusted. The woman who was smiling sweetly while slowly dismantling my life behind my back. Yeah, I finally said. Work ran long. She nodded, still not looking at me. I walked toward the staircase, then paused. Lena? She looked up casually. For a moment, all I wanted to do was scream, ask her who that man was, why she was giving him documents, why she was planning a divorce. But I swallowed it all down. Instead, I said, I've been thinking. Maybe we should take a small weekend trip soon. Just the 2 of us. She blinked, surprised. Oh, really? Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. Why not? She smiled back. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. The smile didn't reach her eyes. Because she wasn't planning a future with me. She was planning an escape. And she had no idea I already knew. 2 days later, Blake finally called. And the identity of the man Lena was meeting was something that made my entire world tilt off its axis. I barely slept the night before Blake sent the message that would finally pull the curtain back on everything. The house was too quiet. Lena was already asleep beside me, her breathing soft and even, as if she hadn't spent the last few weeks building a fortress of lies behind my back. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, wondering who the man was, the man she met in secret cafes, the man she handed documents to, the man who somehow looked at her with an expression I hadn't seen in months. A part of me prayed it wasn't an affair. Another part prayed it was, because the alternative, whatever else she was planning, seemed even worse. At exactly 7:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A single text from Blake. I know who he is. You need to see me immediately. My pulse jumped. I quietly slipped out of bed, showered fast, and left the house before Lena even came downstairs. I drove to the same empty lot behind the hardware store, parking beside Blake's sedan. He didn't waste time. He handed me a folder. This one much thicker, heavier. This, he said, is the full report. I took a breath and opened it, and my stomach dropped so fast it felt like I'd been punched. The man behind the meetings. The photos were clearer this time. High quality. Close up. And the man Lena had been meeting was not a coworker. Not an attorney. Not some stranger she'd fallen for. It was my brother, Daniel. 2 years older than me. Always charming. Always ambitious. Always needing to be the center of attention. The same brother who had disappointed everyone enough times that I eventually stopped expecting anything from him. We hadn't spoken in almost a year, since he asked me for a loan, and I refused because I knew exactly where it would end up. He repaid that betrayal in the most vicious way possible. I flipped through the photos, each one stabbing deeper than the last. There they were, sitting close in a cafe booth. There they were, laughing like old friends. There they were, exchanging envelopes, my documents, my contracts, my financial statements. How long? I whispered. How long have they been meeting? About 6 weeks, Blake said quietly. But based on patterns, I'd guess longer. Maybe months. My throat tightened. Is it physical? We didn't catch anything romantic, he answered. No touching. No affection. No private rooms. It's all business. Business, I repeated bitterly. Plotting my destruction is business now. Blake nodded sympathetically. There's more. He flipped to the final page, a document he'd printed, an email chain. Between Lena and Daniel, my vision blurred for a moment. The most recent email read, I have the final set of documents ready. Once you file the petition, I'll handle Ethan and the transition. He'll be blindsided, just like we planned. Lena, file the petition. Handle me. Blindsided. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped metal bands around my ribs and squeezed until I could barely breathe. I dropped the folder onto the passenger seat. Blake studied me. I can dig deeper, find out their exact plan. But Ethan, this isn't about cheating. I nodded slowly, my jaw tightening. No, it's worse. The drive home. I didn't go to the office. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even turn on the radio. I just drove. Every memory of Daniel flashed into my head. Every lie he told. Every scheme he pulled. Every time he made a mess and expected me to clean it up. And Lena, God, Lena, had invited him into our marriage like he was some noble ally. She trusted him, sat with him, conspired with him. I had married her. I had shared my life with her. I had given her everything. And she partnered with the one person who had loved taking everything from me since we were kids. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my hands were shaking. I sat there for several minutes, staring at the front door. She was inside, the woman who was planning to gut my life and hand it over to my brother. I wasn't ready to confront her yet, not without a strategy, not without being fully prepared. So I walked in like nothing was wrong. Breakfast lies. She greeted me in the kitchen with a bright smile, pouring coffee like she wasn't stabbing me behind the ribs every day. Morning, she said cheerfully. You left early today. Yeah, I answered. Had some things to take care of. She poured me a mug and handed it over. I forced a smile and took a sip. She sat across from me, scrolling her phone. Did you still want to do dinner Saturday? She asked. Definitely. She nodded. Good. I made the reservation. I watched her carefully, her calmness, her ease, her lies. I wondered how long she had been practicing this act. How many times she'd looked me in the eyes and smiled while planning the day she'd file for divorce, while plotting with my brother. The betrayal cut so deeply I felt physically nauseous, but I stayed calm, silent, strategic, because I couldn't let her see the smallest crack in my expression. Not yet. The second layer of betrayal. After breakfast, I went upstairs to grab my work files. Instead, I opened her laptop again. And now that I knew what to look for, everything made sense. There were coded spreadsheets organizing assets she intended to claim, calendars matching her meetings with Daniel, draft letters to attorneys, detailed notes on how to portray me as emotionally distant and financially unstable. Each sentence felt like another knife twisting under my ribs. But that wasn't the worst part. At the bottom of one document, she had labeled a section, Post-Divorce Living Arrangements. And right beneath that, in clean blue ink, she had written, Daniel and I can discuss next steps once separation is finalized. My head snapped up. Next steps. There was only one interpretation. She didn't just want to leave me. She wanted to replace me with my own brother. My heart pounded so hard I had to grip the desk to steady myself. I closed the laptop, breathing slowly, deliberately, because if I didn't, I'd march downstairs and confront her right then, and ruin any chance I had of flipping her entire plan upside down. I needed to think, plan, prepare. So I reached for the flash drives I had retrieved earlier, the ones containing the original ownership records of my business assets. Because if she thought she was taking everything from me, she had no idea I was already working on taking everything back. Dinner that wasn't really dinner. Saturday arrived faster than I wanted. We got ready together. She wore a stunning navy dress, her hair curled softly, her perfume filling the hallway. She looked breathtaking. But when I looked at her, all I could see were the photos of her sitting across from Daniel, exchanging documents like two thieves carving up my life. At dinner, she laughed, touched my hand, talked about vacations, remodeling the guest room, maybe adopting a dog. Her lies were so smooth, they felt rehearsed. But I played along, smiled, joked, held her hand back, because the game wasn't over. Not yet. That night, after we came home, I received a message from Blake with a single sentence that made my entire body go cold. Ethan, you need to know, your wife and brother plan to file the divorce in 3 days. 3 days. And they still believed I was clueless. But they were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. 3 days. That was all the time I had before Lena and Daniel pulled the trigger on their perfect little plan. They probably pictured me blindsided, shattered, begging them for explanations I would never get. But instead, I woke up the next morning with a strange calmness settling over me. It was the kind of calmness that takes hold when all illusions finally shatter, the kind that leaves only clarity and purpose. I had spent years loving Lena. I was about to spend the next 72 hours dismantling every trap she and my brother had laid, piece by piece, securing my future. My first stop was the bank, right when the doors opened at 9 a.m. I walked in politely, shook hands with the branch manager, and explained that I needed to place temporary holds on several accounts until further notice. I also moved a sizable portion of my liquidity into a separate private account under the business, fully legal, fully documented, and fully inaccessible by any spouse. Next, I transferred ownership of certain intellectual properties back to the original company entity under an updated agreement. Lena had no idea those assets were never fully in my personal name to begin with, thanks to federal protections common in engineering and design industries. The irony? She had been plotting to take assets she never legally had access to. By 11 a.m., half her divorce strategy was already dead. Consulting an attorney, my way. But I wasn't stupid enough to go to just any attorney. I needed one with two key traits. Brilliant enough to dismantle Lena's strategy completely, and discreet enough that word wouldn't get back to her or Daniel. Marcus knew exactly who that was. He set up a meeting with attorney Claire Monroe, a woman with a steel spine and a reputation for turning high-stakes divorces into bloodbaths for the opposing side. When she walked into her office conference room, she didn't waste time. So, she said, crossing her arms, tell me everything your wife is planning. I handed her the documents, photos, email screenshots, financial outlines, every piece of proof Blake had collected. By the time she finished reviewing them, her eyes were blazing. Ethan, this isn't a simple divorce plan. This is coordinated asset theft. I nodded. And she's working with my brother. She closed the folder slowly. Good. That actually helps us. I blinked. Helps. Absolutely, she said. If she's colluding with a third party, especially a family member, we can leverage this. She'll lose any claim of good faith. Judges hate manipulation. She leaned forward. But more importantly, this gives us grounds to launch a preemptive strike. I felt my chest tighten. Meaning? We file before they do, she said. We freeze all marital asset movement immediately. We attach evidence of collusion, financial manipulation, and intentional deceit. And what do I get out of that? I asked quietly. She smiled. Everything she planned to steal from you? We'll make sure she doesn't get a dime. The spy in my own home. That evening when I got home, Lena was in the kitchen making dinner, humming softly like she didn't have 2 days left before betraying me completely. Hey babe, she said sweetly. You're home early. I walked up behind her and kissed her cheek. She smiled warmly. If I didn't know better, I would have believed she loved me. Figured we could eat together, I said. We did. We talked about nothing, her work, my day, weekend plans. She laughed at my jokes. She touched my arm. She stole bites of my pasta playfully. An actress. A very convincing one. Later that night, while she showered, her phone buzzed on the counter. Normally, I never touched her phone. But now, I had no guilt left to spare. A message preview flashed across the screen. Daniel, everything ready for Tuesday? My chest tightened. I didn't unlock her phone. No need to expose my knowledge prematurely. Instead, I took a photo of the screen. Then I poured myself a drink and sat in the bedroom, waiting for her to finish showering. When she walked out wrapped in a towel, smiling, asking if I wanted to watch a movie, I forced myself not to look at her like a stranger, even though that's exactly what she had become. The visit to my parents. The next morning, I drove an hour to my parents' house. They greeted me warmly, unaware of the war brewing under the surface. When I told them what Daniel had done, my mother's face drained of color. He wouldn't, she whispered. Ethan, your brother wouldn't do that. He already has, I said. My father rubbed his temples. You have proof. Yes. Enough to bury him if I wanted. He sat down heavily. My father, a man who always defended Daniel, looked broken in a way I had never seen. I knew he was reckless, he said quietly. I didn't think he was cruel. I swallowed hard. I didn't either. Then my mother placed her hand over mine. Son, whatever you decide to do, we will support you. Her voice shook. And if this goes public, we want you to know something. I looked at her, confused. What? Her eyes filled with tears. We choose you, the Trojan horse. Later that day, I sent Lena a text. Big news. Can't wait to tell you tonight. She replied. Oh, what is it? I smiled darkly. Tonight wasn't about romance. It wasn't about sharing news. It was about setting the stage for the move she'd never see coming. When she came home, we cooked together, ate together, even danced in the living room for a few minutes as the sun set. She leaned into my chest, her voice soft. I love nights like this, she said. I forced myself not to pull away. Instead, I whispered, me too. Then, I dropped the first bait. I'll be working from home all day Tuesday, I said casually. No meetings. She stiffened, just slightly, barely noticeable. But I noticed. I noticed everything now. Tuesday? She repeated lightly. All day? Yeah, I said. Why? Oh, nothing, she said with a smile. Just wondering. She wasn't wondering. She was panicking because her plan required me gone, in a meeting, at the office, anywhere but home, to be blindsided when the divorce papers arrived. Now she'd have to rethink everything. Good. Let her scramble. I went to bed early, pretending to be exhausted. She stayed awake longer than usual, pacing the hallway, talking quietly on the phone. I didn't need to hear the words. I already knew who she was calling, and I already knew they were re-strategizing, which was exactly what I wanted. Every shift she made, every adjustment, every frantic move, only tightened the noose around her plan. The night before their planned filing, I received a final message from Attorney Claire. Everything is ready. At 8 a.m. tomorrow, we strike first. But she added one more line that sent a chill down my spine. And Ethan, you're not going to believe what we found in Lena's latest communications. Be prepared. I didn't sleep the night before the hearing. My chest felt tight, like someone was pressing a heavy stone against me. For days, I had rehearsed every possible version of what might happen in that courtroom. Olivia screaming, Daniel denying everything, Jade defending him. But the truth was, I had no idea how it would unfold. All I knew was this. Today, the secrets would end. Today, the lies would burn. I arrived early, wearing a simple navy dress. No jewelry, no makeup tricks, no attempt to look stronger than I felt. I didn't come to impress anyone. I came to end something that had already died long before. The hallway was quiet until Daniel and Olivia appeared at the far end. They looked uneasy, not proud, not victorious, just scared. Good. For once, they had no control. Jade rushed over to me the second she spotted me. Hey, she whispered, touching my arm. You ready? No, I admitted. But I'm here. That's enough. Exactly, she said, squeezing my hand. When Daniel and Olivia reached us, Daniel tried to speak first. Emily about the online post. No, I cut him off. We're not doing that. Save it for the judge. Olivia rolled her eyes. This is all ridiculous. You think this changes anything? I looked her dead in the eye. Actually, it already has. Before she could respond, the clerk opened the courtroom doors, and everything inside me shifted. My nerves quieted. My fear dimmed. A strange, fierce clarity took its place. It was time. Each courtroom. We sat at opposite tables. Me with Jade, and Daniel alone beside his attorney. Olivia sat in the back, arms crossed, glaring at me like I personally ruined her life. The irony nearly made me laugh. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then the hearing began. Daniel's attorney went first, painting him as a devoted husband who had fallen into a period of emotional distress, blaming his actions on work stress and a moment of weakness. They asked the court to accept the original settlement, basically penniless for me, comfort and luxury for him. It was a well-rehearsed performance. Then my attorney stood. Your Honor, before we proceed with our rebuttal, we have additional evidence to present. The judge nodded. Proceed. Jade connected her laptop to the courtroom screen. The first image appeared. A screenshot of Daniel's private messages to Olivia. Explicit messages. Incriminating messages. Messages about money, property, and rushing the divorce before I wake up and ruin everything. Daniel froze. Olivia's face drained of color. The courtroom whispered. But Jade wasn't done. Next appeared a video timestamped only weeks before the divorce filing, Daniel and Olivia kissing in the company parking lot. From a security camera. I didn't know about this one either. Jade had been busy. Daniel slammed a hand on the table. That's illegal. She's stalking me. No, Jade said sweetly. That's company property. My property. And your face is very recognizable, Daniel. The judge cleared her throat. Mr. Carter, if your concern is privacy, you should not have been conducting a secret affair on cameras owned by your employee, especially while planning to exploit your spouse. He looked like he wanted to sink into the carpet. Then Jade displayed the final file. An audio recording. My heart sped up. I hadn't heard this before. It was Daniel's voice, and Olivia's. Daniel, just keep her calm. She'll sign anything. Once I get the house transferred, we're gone. Olivia. And after that? Daniel. After that, I'm done pretending. I felt like someone stabbed me right through the chest. Even after everything, hearing him say those words, so cold, so calculating, was a pain I wasn't prepared for. The judge held up a hand. That is enough. Silence blanketed the entire room. Daniel didn't meet my eyes. Olivia looked like she might cry. Would. Hitchy verdict. After reviewing everything, the judge delivered a decision that made Daniel's face collapse in on itself. Given the evidence of infidelity, manipulation, and intentional financial deception, the court rejects the proposed settlement. Mrs. Carter is granted full rights to the marital home, half of all shared assets, and an additional financial compensation due to Mr. Carter's misconduct. Furthermore, Mr. Carter is ordered to pay reasonable attorney fees. Jade nudged me gently. I realized I'd been holding my breath. The judge wasn't done. Additionally, the court finds grounds to question Mr. Carter's actions within his workplace. The recordings and messages presented will be forwarded to the company's legal department for review. Olivia gasped. Daniel's attorney buried his face in his notes. It was over. Completely, undeniably over. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I simply felt free. For the first time in years, after the storm. Outside the courthouse, Daniel caught up to me. Emily, please. You have to listen. I got carried away. I was confused. I made mistakes. Daniel, I said quietly, you didn't make a mistake. You made a plan. He flinched. I loved you, he whispered. No, I said softly. You loved what I did for you. And when I stopped serving that purpose, you replaced me. His eyes filled with tears. I never thought you'd fight back, he admitted. I know, I said. And that was the real betrayal. He thought I was too weak to protect myself. Olivia approached next, cheeks blotchy and red. You're evil, she spat. You ruined his life. Sweetheart, I said, stepping closer. I didn't ruin anything. I simply refused to let him ruin mine. She opened her mouth again, but Daniel grabbed her arm. Olivia, stop. Watching him pull her away. Watching them walk off together, arguing, falling apart. It felt like poetic justice. Moving forward. A month later, my life didn't magically become perfect. There were nights I cried. Days I doubted myself. Moments the betrayal still felt fresh. But I was no longer afraid. I rebuilt slowly, piece by piece. My job, my confidence, my peace. And Jade? She became more than a coworker, more than a friend. She became the person who reminded me that not all loyalty is an illusion. One evening, as we sat on my porch drinking tea, she said, you know, You handled this with more dignity than anyone I've ever seen. I didn't feel dignified. I laughed weakly. That's how I know you're stronger than you realize, she replied. For the first time in a long time. I believed her. THE final twist. Weeks later, I received an email from the company's HR department. Daniel had been terminated. Olivia too. Misuse of company resources. Violation of ethics policies. Inappropriate conduct on corporate property. The last line of the email made me stare for a long moment. We are grateful to you and EMS Kingston for providing critical evidence. Individuals like you help protect the integrity of this workplace. I closed my laptop and smiled. Daniel thought he could outsmart me, manipulate me, blindside me. But in the end, his secret divorce wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning of my freedom. And my next move. It was exactly what he never saw coming. Because as it turns out, Daniel wasn't the only one keeping a secret, and my own secret was about to change everything.